Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rob.
Hi, I'm Joan. Glad to see you. I think that Rob has lost it. Trish said, I made a woohoo, so did we, Trish. Tonight we have two wonderful authors again. It's really so exciting for us to always meet these authors and talk with them and get to know them a little bit. And I know it is for you too. You may or may not have noticed that I have a bright red nose. It's not like I'm now Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or that I began drinking excessively in the last 2 weeks, but left over from my surgery, and they tell me it only takes 2 months to go away, and I can't put makeup on it for a while, so woohoo.
Want to encourage everyone to comment. You have something to say, questions, especially, pointed toward the authors. That would be great. And if you're watching on YouTube, even after the fact, make sure you subscribe. We need subscribers. We really do. That would be really nice. Then you'll get some notifications when our show's on and stuff. So.
Okay, that's a problem.
It is a problem.
Okay.
Hang on a second.
Wait just a minute.
Little technical problem.
Yeah. We're having a thunderstorm here, and it just booted us off of the live broadcast.
On one of them.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see.
I'm not sure why it's not working.
It's not working.
Okay, so we've got the other two Facebooks. Or the other Facebook.
Trish, can you still hear us on the Facebook you're on?
Yes, we do, James.
We do. We get your James. So, James, you're hearing and seeing the broadcast.
On YouTube.
All right. And Trish, are you on Meet the Author podcast, that Facebook page? Okay.
Okay, I'm not sure why that happened.
We just... Let's see. All right. Great.
Perfect.
Great.
Okay, well, hopefully everyone will find their way.
and James says that he can.
Okay, you're on the Meet the Author page.
Hi,
Chanel. Okay, well, we won't worry about
Chanel.
it. We'll just hope everybody can
all
find us.
All of a sudden got this thing that said you're no longer on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was just the one. So, okay.
Woo. Anyway.
Our first guest is mystery crime author Joe CONGEL. And he's the author of the Rasman Chronicles. And we'll bring Joe in shortly, but I want you to stay tuned for the second half. We have a USA Today best-selling author, Deb Hunter, also known as Hunter S. Jones, on her books.
Writes as Hunter S. Jones.
Yeah. So you want to stay tuned and see what Deb has to say. Is it calling you Joe and Deb at the same time? That's more efficient.
New power couple.
It's more efficient. So before we go down the tubes all the way, I'm going to bring Joe in.
Save us, Joe.
Save us, Joe. Help.
Hi, Joe.
Hello. How are you?
Good, I think.
That's what a way to start this broadcast. It's really a bad storm here, and then all of a sudden it said you're no longer broadcasting on Facebook, and we were like, whoa.
Oh no.
Yeah, but we've had quite a few people say, yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah, that is really weird.
Quite a few people are telling us yes, they can.
Yeah, so okay, we won't worry about that.
Us, right?
So this is about you, Joe. It's not about us.
All righty.
Believe it or not. Oh my goodness.
Tell us about yourself a little bit and how you got started writing and that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, it's kind of an odd story, I guess you could say. Hey, James. I started out wanting to be a cartoonist. That was really where my love was. I wanted to draw cartoons in the newspaper, the comic strip section. And I worked at that for quite a while, and that's a very hard thing to get broken into, obviously. And I just found that I enjoyed it, but I couldn't make any money at it. So So I had to go to work in a regular profession to make ends meet, and I still continued to draw and enjoyed it. I did get a little bit of notice here back in the day. There was a newspaper called the Syracuse New Times, which I was in the hometown that I grew up in, Syracuse. And I did get a strip in there, just, one strip, not an entire series of strips, but just one strip in there at one point called Tropical Pete. So I lived off of that fame for a short 15 minutes or so. But I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And then I got the call from a good friend of mine, Dave Murray, who I think is on here tonight.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Dave wrote a book, or he was going to write a book called House Training Your VCR, A Help Manual for Humans. So obviously, knowing what that title is, you know how long ago that was. That book, it was a humorous take on what your owner's manual was for a VCR. A lot of people had a lot of issues with being able to set up their VCR, to be able to let it record one channel while they're watching something else. So Dave, being the expert in that field, decided that he was going to tap on that expertise, and he was going to write a book about it. And he asked me if I would do the cartoon illustrations on it, on the inside and the cover on the outside. So I went ahead and did that. And that gave me a really big introduction into the timelines that you have to adhere to actually make a book work. And it was funny because Dave even joked about the idea that he was going to hang my kids outside the window until I got the drawings done, because along a little bit here and there. But overall, it became a nice critical success. It was never a super financial success. It was a small market type of book, but we had a lot of fun doing it. And it still has some legs now, even a little bit. We still find people that have just discovered it, and it's more of a nostalgic thing, I guess, now than it probably is anything else. But we had a good time with it. We did some radio shows, some call-in radio shows back then, and we did a book signing, and I think 2 people showed up for that, so that was successful. And
There you go.
we just enjoyed it. We enjoyed the whole thing, but it was a great experience. And out of that experience came my idea of thinking that, maybe I could write a book too. But I really wasn't going to be able to do it in the same type of genre that Dave's book was in. I was a mystery buff. I enjoyed reading mystery books. So I decided that I would try my hand at that. So I started back in 1995. This book, by the way, came out, House Training Your VCR came out in 1992. And then by 1995 is when I decided I was going to try to write my own book. So I started writing the book Dead is Forever back then in 1995, and got a little bit ways through it, and then life got in the way, and which it likes to do. So I shelved it for probably well over 20 years before I got back to it. And then when I got back into it, I realized how outdated a lot of the references were that were in it. So I had to kind of go through it and update that a little bit and change some things around there. And it turned out, I thought, to be a pretty good effort. I mean, it was the first book, so obviously there's always challenges with that. And I kind of realized that in that particular time, that particular book was more of a whodunit more than a whodunit. So it wasn't really the mystery that I was kind of going for. Very early on who actually committed the murder and the crime and all that. And the book really became the challenge of Tony Razzolito, the main character, becoming a PI, which is what he always wanted to do, and pursuing that as a possible career down the road. So he solved the murder in that with some help with some friends, and then decided that might be the way he'd want to go. So that's kind of how that got me into the writing profession, I guess, in the first place.
So what was that one called?
That was called Dead is Forever.
Oh, that is Dead is Forever.
That one right
Okay.
there. Yep, that was that one right there.
Okay.
And like I said, it was
Followed by
Deadly Passion. Now Deadly Passion was the one that I probably worked much harder on, and I learned a lot. I feel that I grew a lot as an author between the first book and the second book. In between those, I did a book called The Razman Chronicles, which is 3 short stories that still have Tony Razzolito in them. And I used that as a bridge to kind of help with a timeline issue that I was going to have between the first 2 books. Dead is Forever is a book that shows Tony really, I guess, in an amateur detective type of mode. And I really didn't want to write an amateur detective series. So in Deadly Passion, his character and everyone around him is advanced about 5 years into the future. But in order to cover that and kind of let people understand that, I did the Razman Chronicles, which those 3 stories kind of help, I guess, really connect the dots between the 2 books as to how he progressed as a PI and why in Deadly Passion he seemed to be this very good PI that had great skills and could solve the crime. And in the first one, he was kind of struggling. So that's how I worked that to get to that point, because I really wanted to have a PI series that had a kind of a more wisecracking kind of PI that really knew what he was doing and could keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. So
Sort of like you.
Just like me, yes.
Just like one with the big dogs.
Yes, exactly.
And then this one?
Yeah, Leftovers is exactly what that title infers. It's a book of leftover stories, just short stories that I had written and didn't really have anything else to do with them. So I put them together in this mix of 6 unrelated short stories. There's still, a couple of them are still crime-based, and then there's a couple others in there that are not. And it was just a way for me to explore some different types of writing and to put that out there to see, what people thought about me not doing a PI type piece. So,
that was a good idea.
Yeah.
And then this is really exciting.
Yes, that has been a passion project now for a couple of years, and it is a book that has taken me a long time to write. I started that book a couple of years ago and worked on it diligently for a long time and really thought it was going to come out right around the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. And I ended up having some issues as time went on that kind of kept me from completing the book. I had a series of tests done, medical tests done that proved to give me a scare, if you will. And just like, I'm not shy talking about it. I mean, essentially I had a calcium scoring done on my heart and it came back very high. And that was scary. And it took me about 2 months from that point to have the MRI that I needed to have to kind of explain why the number was as high as it was. And that was crazy. I drove my family nuts. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know, how to act. And I had a lot of anxiety in that time. And of course, because of all that, I just stopped writing.
Yeah.
And just couldn't get it done.
Because you couldn't focus on that.
Exactly.
And I get that completely.
Yep.
Robert.
Hi, Robert, in the Down Under.
Oh, do you see what Robert said?
Yeah. Well, the original Magnum PI was a great show. So absolutely.
No kidding. Yeah, yep. I'm sure you meant the old show, right, Robert? Not the new show. I mean, the new show is kind of, never mind. But
yeah,
I think it's.
Really? Tell us what you think.
I'll tell you what you really feel. Hi, Robert. Chanel is here too. Robert is a viewer of ours that comes from Queensland, Australia.
Oh, my.
Yes, and you'll be really happy, Robert, because the book giveaways today from both authors are ebooks.
Ebooks.
Yes.
Speaking of book giveaways.
Robert said Tom Selleck rocked. He does rock.
Yes, for sure. Let's go ahead and get your
book
giveaway out there so people can work on it. Absolutely. And then we can talk some more. The first 5 people to email jc.razman, RAZZMAN, @gmail.com will win an ebook of their choice. Of Joe's books, of course. He's not giving away other people's books. So
any of the books that we just showed you, except for Dirty Air, because it's
not there.
That was a preview of what is to come, not what is.
Yes, and that'll be out within. It should be out within the next 3 weeks. That's the goal.
But probably starting at the beginning would be a good idea because they tie together pretty good, right? Or are they standalone?
Well, you can actually, if you can read them all as standalones. I did that on purpose because you never know where somebody's going to pick up your series.
We did too. We did too.
Yeah, and now obviously you learn a little bit more of the backstory and what brought these characters to be who they are by starting at the beginning, but you don't necessarily have to. There's a little bit of reference in each one of them as to what got them to where they are without giving away whatever was happening in the books before, for the most part. But yeah, you can read them from beginning to end, or you can start anywhere and still, I think, enjoy the story.
Yeah, so this would be what we're talking about, just to reiterate: Did Us Forever, and A Deadly Passion, and then the Razman Chronicles. And then the new one that will be coming out will be Dirty Air, but that you can't get yet because it isn't published yet.
Correct. Now,
if you wanted to, you could have leftovers too. Those are 6 short stories, right?
They can have leftovers, and actually, if somebody has read the other books and they do want a copy of Dirty Air and they can wait about 3 weeks, I will be happy to oblige them and give them that one instead. So because I know I don't have a lot of them out there, so it's possible that someone may have read them all, and if that's the case, then I would be absolutely happy to give them a copy of Dirty Air, but they got to wait those few weeks to get it. So
is this someone you know?
That is my daughter. Yes.
Hey.
Hi, Rita.
Hi, Rita.
Yep.
Dave Murray, can I get an ebook of House Training Your VCR instead?
Yes, Dave.
That's out on the ebook.
Well, Dave is the writer of that book. He's the guy.
I know he is.
Book. So I think he understands that there's not an ebook copy of it.
I know. Okay. I was teasing him.
Dave's a little strange, anyways, though. So he would ask for that.
Well, the book is funny. So
yeah, here is an authentic question.
Okay. How do you do research for your stories?
Well, wait a minute. Let's read it for the we'll be listening to the audio.
Trish says, how do you research for your stories? And do you visit places or have you spoken to PIs?
I've not really spoken to a PI. I do have a relative that I had talked to in the past that was a cop, and he kind of gave me one perspective, if you will, just through stories that he told and all that. So it kind of gave me an idea of how to have, I guess, that controversial relationship between the PIs and the police that seems to take place. But yeah, I do the research. I mean, Google's my best friend when it comes to a lot of the research. But I do try to work in areas that I've been to, that I've visited, that I think will work in the story. I grew up in Syracuse, New York, so the very first book has a lot of Syracuse references in it. I moved to North Carolina, to Charlotte, North Carolina. So everything after that has pretty much taken place in Charlotte, the Charlotte area. I do have in the short stories, the book, the Razman Chronicles, they're in Jamaica. So, and one of the stories are in Jamaica. So I do the research to make sure that I'm as accurate as I can be. Dirty Air was the hardest book that I've had to research because it has to do with illegal street racing and with NASCAR. And I don't know a lot lot either. Or I didn't. Now I do because I've done a lot of research on it. And
you bought those 2 cars,
right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I went out to my driveway, took a picture of those, and put them on the cover. But as far as the research on that, I happen to have in my backyard the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and a lot of opportunity there to go up there and kind of map that out and see what's what, so that when you read about that part of it in the book, that's very accurate, because I did go up there and really did a good job in making sure I understood what I was talking about there. You have to. I mean, there's no way around that. I mean, people will call you out on it if you don't. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I do like to think about the idea that I have, fictional characters that live their lives in real places. Is really what
right.
I do. So
let me show some of the places where people can get in touch with you. So for his website is joecongelfictionstories.blogspot.com. I'll spell Joe Congel again so that those of you who are listening will remember JoeCongel. All right. And on Facebook, you can reach him at Joe Congel Author. On Twitter, at Joe Congel author. This is so easy.
It is. That's why I did it that way.
And then
you messed it up
your
with the email.
Well, not really, because if you actually read the books, the JC is Joe Congel.
Joe
Razman
Congel.
is Tony Razzolito's nickname.
That's who we're talking about.
There you go.
jc.rasman@gmail.com.
Yep.
And that's where you need to email to get an ebook of your choice.
Right.
Now, let me see. Trish Pickman says, thank you for that answer. Oh,
Hi,
Tom
Tom
Nally
Nally.
said,
Hi,
hi.
hi.
Hi, Tom. Glad to see you. Glad you could make it. Trish said, thank you for that answer.
Well, I hope it actually answered it, but you're welcome.
Yeah, you did. It was a very good, thorough answer. I have a question for you.
Okay.
So, do you feel attached to your characters? Do you feel like your characters are real?
Yes. The short answer is yes.
Right?
I really do. I mean, a lot of in the first book specifically, Dead is Forever, a lot of the inner dialogue that Tony has throughout the book. I was going through some struggles back then, some personal stuff that was happening to me. And even though the book itself has a murder in it, and that wasn't the struggles I was going through, but somewhat,
Good.
no, nothing like that. But somewhat on some level, I guess maybe the death of a relationship, and so it kind of feeds into a lot of the Tony's character, if you will. And I'm not going to say that it's based on me, because that's not really probably fair assessment of that. But a lot of what he goes through in that book is some of the same inner dialogue I was having back in those days. So yes, I really kind of live and breathe through them sometimes. So yeah, I guess that's the answer, really, is yes.
Yeah. I just wondered, because I know that when we first started writing, it shocked me how much I was invested in the characters, how real they seemed to me.
Absolutely.
And they still do,
Absolutely. And I'm, I guess, what they call a pantser, because I just kind of let the story flow and the characters lead the way. I come up with the premise, I come up with, what I want the plot to be and all that. But the characters really kind of take the direction of where it's going to go. And it's truly something that I didn't expect when I first started doing this, because I really didn't know what to expect.
Right.
And as time has gone on, as they've developed personalities, and as I've fleshed out their backstories and all that, it's made it easier to really decide or have them decide really which way that story needs to progress. Because if I try to push them in a direction, I've heard other people say the same thing. If I try to push them in a direction that's not comfortable, it stops flowing and it doesn't work.
Yep.
So,
You can't. You. That's what a writer's block usually is. Caleb Pirtle explained that to us. He said that's why you're blocked. Because you're asking them to do something they do not want to do.
So they go on strike.
and that's very true.
Dave has a serious question. Do you know how the books will end first and then work from the beginning forward? This is a big thing among authors. And Dave, you're an author, so there are some of us that do outlines, and those of us who write from the end, and those of us who fly by the seat of our pants. So.
And the serious answer to that is somewhat. And I guess that's really the best way to put that. So when I start writing a book, a story, I do have an idea of where I want it to go. And I do know that there's going to be, in most cases so far, actually every case, there's going to be a murder that Tony and his team need to solve. Who actually ends up committing the crime, sometimes I don't know that until I get to the very end. I think I'm going to go a certain way, and then something else happens, and I start going in a different direction, which is great because it allows me to put a lot of red herrings in there, because I thought something was going to happen and it didn't happen, and we kept going. So
there you go.
So yeah, I mean, I do know, roughly what that's going to be. I don't do necessarily a drawn out outline, but I do make a lot of notes that are kind of outline-ish, if you will. So it does give me the opportunity to really know how I want it to end, but not maybe necessarily who committed the crime.
And Robert says some go full Elsa. They let it go.
Yes.
Let it go. Yeah, that's a lot of people, have to know the end. And then we've had a lot of people that go by the outline, take lots of notes and have an outline,
Right.
and they know what they're doing. And then other people just, fly by the seat of their pants. They go full Elsa. They let it go. So
I'm probably more on that side than I am the other. Like I said, I do have notes, and even on the working document as I'm working on the book, at the bottom of that, I've typed in whatever notes that I want to refer back to, so it'll remind me of something when I get to it. So I do those type of things, but actually a full-on outline that's just tacked to the wall or something, or some kind of a vision board kind of a thing, I don't do anything like that whatsoever. It just I enjoy trying to find out where it's going to go also. So it's fun.
Sue says, now that song is playing in my head. It's a good thing. It's a good song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jan Romes, I don't know if you know her or not, but she does the whole storyboard thing. She has the whole vision board set out there. And I mean, she uses a big bulletin board and sets everything up on there.
Oh yeah. I mean, God bless the people that can do that. I'm just not one of them. It's just not how I can work. I'm just not that focused, I guess, on doing that.
I'm not that disciplined. I'm not that
yeah, that's probably a better word, disciplined. Yeah.
I think if you are writing a series, you do need to go back occasionally, even if you don't do it ahead of time, and kind of reconstruct a little bit of a timeline.
Well, that's what he's talking about.
Right, exactly. So I agree with that totally. It's a real important thing. Otherwise,
because you forget.
Yes. And that I do that. I mean, that's a lot of what my notes are, is kind of trying to keep that up to date.
Keep that straight.
Yes, but I've also fleshed out the characters, where I've kind of done bios of all the characters, so that I know, and it reminds me, because sometimes, even though I know Tony inside and out, there may be somebody else that I've utilized, but maybe not in quite a while, and I need to go and refresh. Is that going to work here with that type of personality? Does that make sense? And just notes on what floor in the office building that his office is on, things that I can't get that wrong from book to book. That's got to be the same. That office has to be in the same part of town every time.
Those are the details I'm talking about. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, no, I've got that all down. I keep that safe and put away so I can revisit it when I need to.
Exactly. And I think everybody has to do that too.
Yeah.
Now, and you probably were in the audience when we were talking about Paul Hollis. He writes the Hollow Man series, and he had said something really funny that day. He posted it. They tell you to write about what you like to read.
Yes.
Which is what we've done, and which is what you've done. Mm-hmm. And he said, except that when you've gone over your story for the 3,865th time doing rewrites, you no longer like it. And that's the truth. Oh my gosh. I think when you write your first book and you write it and you think, oh, this is wonderful and exciting, I have a book and it sounds so professional, and you go back and read it and you're like, holy moly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But one of the things that I've done so far, and I guess as time goes on, I probably won't be able to do it as much, just because hopefully there'll be too many of them. But I do go back and I read from beginning to end, the other books, just to get myself back into the rhythm of what it was all about, so that I can continue on. And it reminds me of where that story needs to go in the next book, because there are some dots connected between all of them. Like I said, they are standalones, but there are some dots connecting all of them.
Right.
So and someone that may be reading the whole thing, I don't want them to call me out with it. Well, wait a minute. In book 2,
we wouldn't act like that.
Exactly. So.
But some of that stuff is going to sneak by anyway.
It will occasionally, but not in Joe's books.
No. Well,
I really enjoy
the funny thing about it is going back to Dave Murray. Dave Murray is also, I mean, he really became my mentor, and he's the guy that gets to read all my stuff first. I trust him implicitly when it comes to giving me the straight scoop as to whether or not something works, whether I've spelled a word wrong, whether I've used the word wrong, and he does a great job of keeping me humble on that stuff. So and I do thank him for that, and I do send that to him, and he gets that before anybody else gets to read it. So.
That's great. You're number one best beta reader.
Yes, absolutely. I figured I owed him one for getting me into this in the first place. So,
well, it's about time to break for commercial.
Oh, I wanted to show one more thing.
Oh, okay.
Let me
go ahead.
We didn't mention this. I thought we could
That's
mention
right.
this.
Yeah, that's right.
We touched on it shortly.
Once
little
Upon a
bit.
Wolf Pack and Howling at the Moon. You might want to tell people about that.
Yeah, a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Tell us about Wolfpack.
Yeah, actually, I'm a member of a group called the Wolfpack Authors, and it's really a supportive group. We got together. It's really online. It's basically a Twitter group, if you will, and we support each other's work. We pick each other up when we're down. We make each other feel good about life in general. Sometimes it's not always just about the writing when it comes to how we support each other. But at the end of the day, we had decided that maybe we could do a collaborative effort, and we're trying to figure out how and what that would look like. So we kind of went through a couple of different versions of it. Should we have one story that everybody writes a chapter of it, till we get to the end, or what? And we kind of felt that wasn't going to work because there's so many different genres with the writing that's within this group that would have been very difficult. So we decided to put together a series of short stories. Once Upon a Wolfpack was the first one, and then Howling at the Moon was the second one. And we write whatever story we would like in the genre that we're comfortable in, as long as there is a theme that it does touch. So in Once Upon a Wolfpack, it had to have something to do with a wolf. Now, not necessarily the animal, a wolf, but you had to tie wolf in somewhere. In my story, it's actually a Tony Resolito story, and the wolf is he's a mob guy, is what it really comes down to. I'm not going to say much more than that. If you haven't read it, I think it's a great short story. It's something that if you pick up this book, there's something for everyone in there. It's fantastic. There's a lot of great talent in that book. The second one, same thing, Howling at the Moon. Everything had to tie into a moon type of theme. So that's really what that is. And we support each other, and all the profits for those two books actually go to charity. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question too. Are all the authors in the collaborative and the Wolfpack, are they all the same genre? Do you all write the same genre?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
I
everything.
was getting popcorn.
Yeah, I
I
got
don't
you.
know what he was doing.
Yeah, there's everything from mystery to fantasy to
Okay.
oh gosh, I mean everything you could think of. There's a lot of well, I'm going to say a lot, but there's not in the stories in this book, but there's some erotic authors. There's a lot of different types of genres that these folks write in, and they're all very good at what they do. So if you get one of these two books, there is a story in there that everyone I think can relate to.
Okay.
Robert said that would be mayhem to mesh together as a collaborative effort, and I agree 100%.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Trying to write one story is.
Exactly. I've seen that before, where people have done that, but they're usually all in the same genre. I mean, they write in the same genre, so it makes it a little bit easier. This would have been a nightmare, so we decided to just do it the other way. So. And
James said that was a fast half hour, and I agree, James. It went by like that.
Yep.
And then Sue says, "Awesome titles. That sounds interesting."
Oh, so Joe's books are available through Indie Booksource. Yep. There's links to all his books there. The Wolfpack books aren't up on his page yet, but they will be. But you can find those on his author page, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Tony Wolf Whistle's the local winner. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, that may be in the next one.
Maybe. Okay, well, we're going to take our break now.
And then you'll get to meet Deb.
And then we'll bring Deb in. So everyone sit tight. Don't go away. Grab some popcorn or something, but come right back.
At Indie Booksource, you can shop by genre or by author, and you will be buying direct from the author's main purchase link. We offer hundreds of titles in formats that include ebooks, paperback, hardbound, and audiobook. Support an indie author. Visit indiebooksource.com today.
The Bipolar DM Show, a show about Dungeons and Dragons, indie writing, and living with a mental illness. Watch us live on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on WLFE-DB.com, where we interview guest speakers, authors, and subject matter experts in the areas of mental health, living well, and role-playing games. We're proud supporters of Safe Space. For more information, be sure to visit WLFE-DB.com. Watch us live on Strim TV, Variety Unlimited channel. Also, visit our Facebook page at BipolarDM and see us on twitch.tv/TheBipolarDM. Our webpage is www.thebipolardm.com. There you'll find more information.
WLFE Digital Broadcast Network presents Variety Unlimited Television. Watch shows like Meet the Author Podcast, The Bipolar DM, Just Cindy, Card Pulls and Coffee, Unfiltered Talk with Bryce, and more. That's right, our shows are your shows on WLFE Digital Broadcast Network. And now, back to the show. Hello.
Hello there. And here we have Deb. Hi, Deb.
Hi, Deb.
Hey.
You made it back. That's good.
I
That's
did. Sorry about that. I went to get my husband. He's in the other room, and he wanted to come in. So anyway, thank you very much for having me this evening. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for being our guest.
Thank you for joining us.
We're happy to have you.
One thing I wanted to mention just before we go on, that last advertisement was for Jan Domagala's book, Lone Operator. It's a new release, and you can find that on indiebooksource.com.
Sue Pearson says hi, Deb. Well,
Hi,
actually, she
Sue.
said hello.
Now, so you're a USA Today best-selling author.
That's awesome.
How did you get to that? Which one made that status?
Much like Joe, I went in on a collaborative effort with a group of authors. It was a fairy tale. They did a wolf pack. We did fairy tales, and it featured my time travel because I love that history stuff. And
Yeah.
I went in, instead of doing Tudor England, even though that is in the subplot, I went back to Reconstruction era Chattanooga, Tennessee, from modern day Atlanta, Georgia. And it was really interesting studying the cultural mores and how Chattanooga was one of those places Sherman wiped out. So it was interesting getting into that and how people were working together to survive. And it was a good format for a fairy tale, and it was a lot of fun to write. And like Joe said, it's funny how these characters come alive, and it's almost like Stephen King says, you take orders from the mothership and you sit down and you write.
It's absolutely true.
It's
It
so
is,
true.
it is true. It sounds weird, and I know that before we'd started writing professionally, I didn't realize how true that was, but
Right.
we know our characters and they know us and they run the ship. They really do. It's like we're along for the ride.
That's so true. And I love what Joe was saying because I studied some acting, unlike a lot of authors. I did study writing in school 100 years ago, but also I did writing to learn what my characters would do in a situation. So just like he said, I'll sit down, I will work on their backgrounds. I know these characters when I start writing about them. I know what they like to eat. I know what color eyes they have. I know what they wear. I know their favorite color. So every single fiction book I do is just like my history. I do my research for it, and it's great fun. And after
it wouldn't be a real person, would it? If you didn't know all that, it would be a one-dimensional character. It wouldn't be a full fleshed out character, right?
That's so true. And that's what they do in acting. They sit down and they know what their character is going to do. So when they're on stage, they know how they'll react to situations. And I found that to be so helpful writing fiction, because you already, you know these people well enough to know what's going to happen. Although they do surprise you. They always surprise
you. Yeah. And they balk at things you want them to do. So this was I'll See You in My Dreams.
Yes. That's my latest.
Should say Deb's pseudonym, her pen name is Hunter S. Jones. So this is not somebody else's book. This is Deb's.
That was mine. And that was the one that achieved USA Today bestseller status.
Okay.
That's awesome. And then we have Phoenix Rising.
Nice cover.
Thank you.
All very nice covers, actually.
Thank you. That is actually considered a cult classic. Being into Tudor history, I took what is thought to be like the exact minute of Anne Boleyn's execution, and I did an astrology chart. This is fiction at work, and I wrote a book based on an astrology chart.
That's wonderful.
Wow.
So it's kind of like an ensemble piece.
That's brilliant.
It's like, oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. But every part of the chart is a character and what they were doing at the last hour of her life. And it, of course, looks at what Henry VIII, and it's fiction, what Henry VIII was doing, what her daughter was doing, what her mother was doing, just different people at that time. So it was interesting to write. Oh, thank you very much for that, Sue. I appreciate your...
Sue had said, for those that are just listening, congratulations. I love fairy tales and love historical fiction. The covers are beautiful. And Trish has a question. Deb, did you decide on the pen name Hunter S. Jones in part because of the author Hunter S. Thompson? Good question. Well, and now Deb's going to say, I don't know who Hunter S. Thompson is. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I think everybody knows who Hunter S. Thompson is. It was kind of a thing. At the time I really started writing, about 10 years ago, women were taking initials. And I knew enough to know that men's books do better than women's books do. And using that premise, I wanted to use Hunter. And then I thought, well, the perfect alias is either Smith or Jones.
That's clever too. So you got the Smith Jones.
Yes. So from there, I went, okay, there we go. Hunter S. Jones. That's how it came about, because I wanted to keep Hunter. That's my identity. That's our last name.
That's your name. So,
and my newest one that I'm doing on Kindle Vella, I'm using my actual name this time, but that's how my pen name came about, because I thought, well, if this doesn't work out in a year or two, I had a pen name and it's done. So here I am 10 years later talking to y'all and having a great time.
There you go.
Well, let me show your next book then. That's also a beautiful cover.
Thank you.
Magic and Mystery.
Tales of Tudor England.
You want to tell us a little bit about that book?
That one, I took all the blogs and research I did for Phoenix Rising and put into this book. So it's a mixture of history and fiction. And I went through a phase. I'm a cancer patient, and I wanted all my Tudor work in one volume. that's what I wanted to do. And it really helped get me through that year that I had so many operations and things. So that's how that one came about. So it is magic and mystery. It's fiction. It's blogs based on research. So it's just basically a labor of love is what that one is.
How are you doing now, health-wise?
Knock wood, I am doing great. I'm working out 5 days a week.
Wonderful.
It's a very capricious disease, as we all know, and it teaches you that today is the most important day you will ever live. And you just have to go with that.
Yeah. Or Alias Smith and Jones. That was a good one. I like that show.
Let's get your book giveaway out there. Get to the right page.
Banners.
Boom. There we go. The book giveaway. The first 5 people to email deb@allthingstutor.com will win an ebook copy of Magic and Mystery, The Labor of Love. Is that the subtitle?
Yes, that's our subtitle. That is definitely our subtitle. So, and I did want to give a quick shout out to my Facebook group. I started that Facebook group around the time I started writing Magic and Mystery, and it started out being 40 friends and family. And my husband's British, so a friend of mine was like, darling, why don't you start a group for those of us so we can understand this thing you talk about all the time. And this thing was history. So we started out being 40 people, just so I could give them an idea about Tudor history. And we are now 18,000 people.
And that's all things Tudor, right?
Yes.
On Facebook.
So it just kind of shows how you can take a bad situation and use something you love and you're passionate about, and the next thing you know, it's got its own life. What can I say? So I want to give them a shout out.
Okay.
Was that cathartic for you? Prayers for cancer being gone. Sue Pearson asked that question.
Thank you very much for that. I truly appreciate it, Sue. It was. I'm a project person. If I've got a project, I am just happy as can be. My husband says, as long as I'm distracted, I'm okay. But whether it's working out, whether it's working on a blog, I've got some things I can't really announce right now, but I do have some things in the works. So if y'all want to follow me, there's some pretty fun things that are coming up that I'm very excited about. But yes, I'm very, very project driven.
As a matter of fact, speaking of that,
here's how you can follow her.
You can go to her website, allthingstutor.com. That's allthingstutor.com. Now, this one is her Facebook, and it's the DEB ATL, which of course means
the Atlanta airport.
Actually, it does.
It's what we call Atlanta, though. We call Atlanta the ATL.
It means Atlanta, yes. So that's that's capital THE, capital DEB, and then capital ATL. And then her Facebook group, the one she was just talking about that started out as 40 and is now 18,000 just 2 years later, people.
Amazing.
I mean, come on. Her Facebook group is All Things Tudor. Her Twitter, you can find her there, is the DEB ATL, same way as the other one. And of course, we already said that her email is deb@allthingstutor.com. And we have a comment here. I call her Hotlanta. Well, yes. And then she said, wow, that's amazing. I love that. I assume she means about your group and how that grew. That is.
And it's going to blow you away. We're probably going to have 19,000 people by Sunday. We are growing so quickly. And I'm very thankful for that. And we have everything from teenagers that have just watched The Spanish Princess or caught the Tudors from 11 years ago that, love the fashion and the drama, to Harvard Oxford and Cambridge professors. We have everything, but they really respect everyone's opinion. We all have that one shared passion, and it's really a very good positive thing. It's a lot of fun.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
That is
so,
fun.
So cool.
And it's really positive and uplifting and a good thing on social media to have 18,000 people that are not constantly squabbling or starting flame wars or
complaining.
Yes.
It's,
I was telling y'all last night, and I'll tell Joe, I have a one-strike rule, Joe. It's like a barroom brawl in Tennessee. I'm from Tennessee. You know, you start a brawl, you're kicked out. No questions asked, you're gone. So they know if they want to stay in the group, they're just going to have to be civil with each other. It's that simple. So that's I have that one strike thing.
yeah, but it's working.
Yeah.
That's the amazing part.
That gives everyone freedom that way.
It does, because
Right.
they make their choice. If they feel so strongly about their opinion, that's great. But I have a private group, so maybe they don't want to start a fight in a private group, you know, go to a public group or something.
Or start their own group and fight with themselves, I guess.
Exactly.
Well, I did want to put this up again. Magic and Mystery
That's
is
the winning book.
The ebook giveaway. So that is exactly the book that you can get a copy of. There we go. And so now you said you're working on something, but you can't exactly talk about it, right?
That's correct.
Do we know how long before we can see it?
Before you can talk about it?
Yeah, or see it or buy it?
I would say look for something to be announced within a month.
Oh, that's soon.
That's
Okay.
soon.
Yeah.
And you'll announce it on your website, or, you know,
Probably in the group.
Twitter?
I like to do things on the group, and then I'm really big on Twitter. I love Twitter. You're kind of in there, out of there. So my Facebook group is first, followed by Twitter. I do Instagram, but I don't know. I get tired of Instagram. I'll be honest about it. Everybody's perfect life. Just, you know, I'm a writer. I'm a word person. So give me Twitter.
It's not as communicative as the others are, I don't think. You know, it's more like one-way street kind of thing.
And there's a lot of good to be said for it, because I've never really seen a fight on Instagram.
Unless it was on the video.
But then again, I haven't really looked. But what was it, babe? Unless it was a video. Oh, he said there's some pretty good videos. But I'm on Instagram some, but that's really I've claimed my name on everything, but I'm not active on everything. I do have to tell you just one funny thing. I did a TikTok when TikTok got really hot a couple of years ago. So I had these new boots I'd bought from the UK, and I'm walking across Peachtree Street, and we could use Nancy Sinatra. These boots are made for walking. Yeah. So I thought, oh man, that's perfect. And my boots had like a tassel on them, and they, you know, I'm swishing across Peachtree Street using these boots are made for walking. And my very first like on TikTok was from Nancy Sinatra.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, that's it. It's over. I could get 1 million likes.
I can retire from TikTok now.
Yeah, I'm done. So my TikTok is a one video thing that's been liked by Nancy Sinatra, but there's no way you can top that. I mean, there's absolutely no way.
I wonder what your astrological sign is then. Nancy Sinatra is your first like on TikTok. Your Facebook goes from 40 to 18,000 in 2 years, 19,000 by this Sunday. Let's see.
Doing something right, huh?
Oh yeah, Dragon Con just ended. Trish Pipkin said Dragon Con just ended. Have you ever been to it as an author or as a guest? Were you ever, you know, I'll ask you, add to this, were you ever on a panel there? Oh, and I did want to say that James Ricard said great cover for your your magic and mystery. It is beautiful.
Thank you very much for that. I have never been to Dragon Con because I don't do the sci-fi kind of thing. I'm more fiction and history. And I have been on some panels, but nothing like Dragon Con. That's just an event.
Oh, it certainly is quite an event.
But
Yeah,
in Tudor times,
definitely.
didn't they have dragons?
Yeah.
They had castles.
They have all kinds of people at Dragon
Yeah.
Con. I mean,
Yes.
it really is. It's quite a thing. And
It
you
is.
live right in mid-Atlanta, right? So
That's correct.
yeah, so pretty close there to where they all are.
And
It's
I think that's
crazy.
one thing, when you're from somewhere, you don't get into it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know, it's just like we'll sit at a restaurant and we'll see people in their costumes and things, and it's just like another
Oh, yeah.
normal day in
Yeah.
Midtown.
Glad you're having fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's just Atlanta. And I think every city's like that. I know when I lived in Nashville, it was just kind of like, you know, you don't really do a lot of things that tourists do.
So let's open this up a little bit between Deb, you and Joe. Do you guys have any questions for each other, or comments, or observations, or?
Well, I was going to say, I think that everything that you're doing sounds amazing. I mean, it truly does. I couldn't even fathom, I guess, having a group with that many people in it that I was
A
leading.
Facebook group with 18,000. Yeah.
It's amazing. But it sounds like it's also fantastic support, you know, and that's the nice
Yeah.
thing. I mean, the Wolfpack authors were like around 30 people, and I thought that was a lot, you know. So yeah. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
there you go.
Yeah. I do have one question though.
Sure.
It has to do, the covers are striking. They're really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, you know, do you have input into how that comes to be, or is that all decided for you, or how do you get to the covers?
Good question.
I have two cover artists I work with, and both of them get my vision. One does a little more of a paranormal, they can add to it, and the other understands history and my time travel books a little better. So I adore both of them, and I really love their work. But they kind of get, if I say I'm writing about this, and here's what the mood I want.
Yeah.
So they're very easy to work with.
No.
But thank you for asking. And I love what you said about how you wrote your books, that you were a pantster, because I've looked at some of these writing things, and I'm like, by the time I figured out how to use that program, I could write my book.
Yeah.
And I admire people that do that. I really, truly do. But I'm not that analytical. I'm more creative. It's just like I just sit down and write it. And I am one of those. I write my last chapter before I write anything else. I know how my book is going to end.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So many people have said that. So many of our authors have said that. Lizette Brody, actually, she was in the audience. She wasn't a guest author, but she said she always writes her ending first.
Yeah.
And we never know how our books are going to end.
Yeah. That's
Kind of gives you a target, though. You know.
Like you said, Joe, we know somebody's going to get murdered somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
But, that's about it.
Yeah.
That's it. And one thing too, someone taught me, and this is so brilliant, and I really don't want to keep it to myself. You don't have to write a book in chronological order.
right.
So if you know what the arc is going to be, go ahead and write that chapter so you don't get writer's block. If you know what chapter 3 is, go ahead and write chapter 3.
Yes.
That was good.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
It
That's
really,
good
truly is. And that's helped me a lot. And then the chapters that need more development, it gives me time to work on those and the internal structure with my editors. And, you know, some things just flow. You just sit down.
Sometimes they just need to sit back here and marinate for a while. Sue says, have you ever changed your ending after getting into the book? That's a good question,
I think
Sue.
this is for both of you, either one of you or both.
Well, she said she always writes the end first. So Sue's saying, have you ever changed your ending after you get into the story?
That makes sense.
I did one. My very first novel is called September Ends, and it's an epistolatory novel. It's all written through emails and letters, and exchanges on the internet. And my last chapter, I knew how it was going to end with the woman with her daughter. I just didn't realize her husband had died. So, but it was very emotional. It was one of those that I didn't realize how it was going to end. I'd written it originally with her with their daughter, and they go for a walk, but I didn't know why they were going for a walk until I completed the rest of the book. So great question, and thank you for asking that. But yeah, sometimes you can write it, and those characters will tell you, no, it's going to be like this.
Yeah. So you, Joe, you kind of write with the same you have the same hero, you know,
right.
on in all of your books. Do you also have you know, satellites that are often in the same in the stories with him?
Yes, actually, starting with Deadly Passion, I started doing that. And that really kind of changed, because in the very first book, Tony Resolito's best friend is a police officer in Syracuse, and I thought that I was going to probably continue that somehow in the other books, you know, whether he's just talking to him on the phone or whatever, to get advice from him as to, you know, what he needed to do going forward. But I only did that in one other story, and one of the short stories in the Rasman Chronicles is the only other place I've actually done that, because I introduced really, I guess, the arch nemesis, if you will, of Tony Resolito, which is John Cahill, which is the police detective that he keeps butting heads with throughout Deadly Passion. And I liked that play between those two so much, that him and his partner, Lucy, who's another detective, they are going to be in the books going forward, because it just gives me something to really kind of add some tension where it's not necessarily related to the murder itself, and it gives me some comic relief at the same time with some of the stuff that happens there. So yes, there are characters that are going to continue as we continue forward. I just don't know if I'll ever get back to the Syracuse police detective, because I'm so far removed, I guess, from book one as I've continued on, because of the fact that he's become a more seasoned detective than he was a PI than he was in the first book. So,
Joe, I'm going to go out on a limb here and ask you a question that you probably already answered. That seems to be the way it's going for me tonight.
Yeah.
How do you come up with your names for your characters?
Well, most of them are people that I have been related to, as far as the names, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, my brother's name is Tony. So I mean, that's really the biggest one. I named my brother after Tony. My wife who gets, well, not my wife, but Tony's wife who gets killed in the first book, and I'm not saying it because she dies in like the first chapter. She was named after a niece of mine. She took a little offense to that, I think, when she realized I killed her off. But so, you know, but I mean, it's just the names. I mean, it's just a way for me to come up with the names.
You should bring her back as a ghost in your next book.
I could, yes. Now all the last names are all just made up. You know, I mean, I obviously don't do anything there, but yeah, all pretty much every first name that you read in that book is someone that I knew that had that name. So.
Same question for you, Deb.
Yeah, except for the historical ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll just look on the internet. Sometimes I'll know, like, okay, I'll know the character's name. I already know that. And then other times it'll be like, okay, what's a popular name? Like maybe I'll get the initials and I'll say, what's a popular name that starts with A? And just Google names until one of them finally clicks. It's just an odd thing. And then sometimes you just know, that it's going to be Elizabeth. It's going to be Mary. Like right now I'm writing about Daisy. I love that name for some reason. And I knew her name. I didn't have to look anything up. It was just there. But yeah,
she's going to be interesting. I'll tell you that right now. No, I'm serious. Yeah. Watch out for Daisy, folks. She's going to be good.
Yes, she's an actress from Georgia, so she's colorful.
Yeah.
Well, now I will say that I take back about the not using the last names occasionally. I did honor Dave Murray, the gentleman who wrote House Trainer VCR. And Deadly Passion, I made him a homeless person that happened to be a so he enjoyed that. Yes, and I had to use his first and last name just so he knew it was him. So, but he was okay with it. He gave me permission to do it. But
let me ask you this, Joe.
yeah.
Does your book, the VCR book?
Yes.
Did he have a beta reader?
Yeah, probably did. Yeah.
All right.
That's a good one.
Somebody had to go there.
Yes.
Yeah, it had to be you.
And some of the younger people probably won't even get that joke.
There you go.
Right. The younger ones won't for sure.
Beta, what's that? Okay, well, this has been great.
Yeah, it has.
We're going to move you guys over, and thank you very much for being on the show tonight.
Great show.
Thank you.
Move you over here. I'm going to push you over right now. There you go. Got you over there. And do you have anything you want to talk about?
No. Trish says that was the daddest of all dad jokes. Yeah.
Maybe the baddest.
That's how bad it was.
She can't spell. It's the baddest
right.
one.
Well, that's what dad jokes are.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
I know. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard that a lot. Okay. Do you have anything you want to talk about?
No, I
No?
don't think so. I mean, my red nose, I should explain that's left over from my surgery. So
Stay tuned for.
it's going to be with you for another 2 months or so. Hopefully I'll be able to wear makeup before then when my doctor lets me. We'd like you to like, share, follow, and comment always on our shows. We appreciate our audience. We have some of the best people in the world here in our audience, and always the best people in the world as our authors. After our shows, stay tuned for Inside the Drag Closet. It follows us on this same channel at 8:30. And that's about it.
Okie dokie. If you want to join us next Wednesday, we will be here, episode 24 already. And we're going to welcome authors Maureen Morrissey. She writes historical fiction. And Mark Youngquist, who writes war history and crime fiction both. So should be an interesting mixture.
Yeah.
And apart from that, until next time.
That's all, folks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DB.com.
You've been listening to WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows.